Hello everyone, I hope you're all doing well. Today's video, we're doing a bit of a preview for some miniatures that are going to be coming to Kickstarter shortly. I've very kindly been sent them to preview and do a bit of painting on and have a look at the initial line and basically just see what I think of them. So let's get into it. Okay, so a few weeks ago I was contacted by a guy called Simon whose company, Warsteel Miniatures, are going to be basically doing a Kickstarter starting hopefully in early February for some 15th century pikemen, handgunners and crossbowmen. Now, knowing that I basically love everything to do with the 15th century, particularly the later part of the 15th century, which, you know, these are based around. He got in touch with me basically to see if I'd like to receive a few, paint them up, see what I thought of them, and so he sent me a load. And when I say a load, he sent me quite a lot. So what I thought I'd do is I've painted up 4 bases of the pikemen here. And I thought what I can do, I'll show you what I've painted up, I'll show you how they've come. And I'll show you how these compare to the current pikemen that you get from Perry Miniatures. And how well they mix in. Now, I should start off by saying this Kickstarter and these miniatures, these are 3D prints, these are STLs, so the Kickstarter is only going to be, as far as I am aware, for STLs only. However, if you purchase the STL files, then you'll be able to send those to a merchant who can print them, but there's also going to be merchant licenses as well. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to move the turntable out of the way, and we'll have a look at basically all the different types of miniatures that he's going to be showing off and that is going to be available in the Kickstarter, and then I'll have a look and talk you through sort of how I painted them up and why I chose to do them the way that I did. Okay, so let's start with the pikemen. Now this might trigger a few people because piles of miniatures, especially pikes, do tend to set people off. However, I've sorted these into piles where the pikes are basically, what's the right word? I'm going to get lynched by some people here. If these are charged pikes, so these are basically stabbing out to the front, and then we've got ones that are at port or at march, so they're up in the air or 45 degrees. So these come in a variety of poses, and he has printed these all out for me. Now, he's printed these out using Soraya Tech fast resin. Now, a lot of the quality in STLs comes from the resin that you use in 3D prints, so that will be obviously quite a big part if you're using, you know, a cheaper resin or a lighter resin, but the quality might be more brittle, might be different. But these ones are pretty much as close to sort of hard plastic as you're going to get. As you can see, there's already a Xenophor highlight on these, and the pike itself is a bristle from a brush, and the pike head is STL as well, so that's all printed. So as you can see, you've got like quite a lunging figure here. Now, in the conversations that I've had with Simon, and had quite a few now, he's told me that essentially he started sculpting these for his personal use because he needed more Swiss en masse in advancing and lowered pike poses. So everything you see here, he's self-taught, and I don't think he's been going for a very long time. But to be honest, with what he's managing to pick up, these are fantastic. So obviously you've got them in nice open helms. You've got some continental sallets there. Very, very simple uniforms. I'm looking for the right word, clothing. But then you can paint these up in any livery that you see fit, whether you want them to be Swiss, Burgundian, or any of sort of the German states. Very cool. So these are the ones where the pikes are all slightly raised. I like this one with the sort of the unhelmeted, but just a sort of a feathered cap. Now there are some in here with slightly. To begin with, you look at them and you think these are slightly odd poses, you know, quite sort of almost awkward. But actually, when you look at some pictures of people carrying pikes, or you look at reenactment, I can understand how these poses exist. Or you have someone trying to shift position to move the pike round to receive another enemy from another angle. I found these quite handy because I basically put these on the flanks of my bases, because then I could sort of get the pikes around the other ones that are stuck out in front. So as you can see, I'm not going to go for every single one. I just wanted to give you examples of the variety. And then we get into the ones where we have the charged pikes and the lowered pikes. And now these are obviously missing from the plastic Perry set. The plastic Perrys, in fact, I've got a base, actually I've got my whole unit here, are up in the air very much. Now, obviously, you can change these. You could arm swap with the Billman from the Bill and Bow set and just do a bit of swapping around, and I'm sure you could get them. However, these obviously come like this, and when printed off, they are going to, you know, essentially be ready for you. I have some advancing, and I enjoy ones particularly like this, where you're going for sort of a high, trying to maybe receive cavalry or take somebody off a horse. Another one as well. So a really big mix of headgear and bodies themselves. Now, I've counted over a dozen separate bodies, and there are a lot of heads. Now, the heads are available as separate files as well, so presumably you are going to be able to print some of these off minus the head, and if you want a certain headgear, so if you wanted them all helmeted, then you would be able to do that. As you can see, I've got lots and lots of these. I've got more than enough here to make a massive pike block with probably about 100 pikes in it. Now, whether or not I'm actually going to use that as one big pike block, or whether I'll cut that down into two, we'll have to see. I know Yorkshire Gamer would say that that's just one unit, but we'll have to see how it goes. But let's have a look at the Handgunners. So here we go. Here are some of the poses of the Handgunners. Now, the Handgunners come in the mercenary set, the plastic set from the Perry Miniatures, and obviously there's some that are available in metal from other manufacturers as well. So to be honest, anything that adds to the range is great. Again, very simple clothing, so you can paint these up in whatever livery you like, with an assortment of different headgear. So there's some in basically low firing positions or advancing positions, as well as firing up at the shoulder like this, which is very nice. I do like that pose. I am going to be building some more small bases of handgunners. Very nice. It's just priming it, getting ready to fire. Nice beardy face, always like a beardy face. And you can see here the same miniature, different headgear. So there you can see we have the handgunners as well. Now, I know handgunners is something that a lot of people like. I like throwing small units out there in games, unless I'm refighting a battle where there was a particularly large unit of handgunners. For example, the Battle of Barnet, where there was a big contingent of mercenary handgunners that were fighting for Edward. Let's have a look at the crossbows. Okay, so here we have examples of the crossbows. So as you can see here, again, quite a variety of poses, quite different poses. This one here, where he's actually, I think he's pulling a bolt from the bolt case, the quiver. I don't know actually if you call a crossbow quiver a quiver, or whether it is just a bolt case. I'm not actually sure. Similar poses to the handgunners, but obviously with a different weapon. And if you get yourself some Purvey's shields and get these guys hiding behind, it'd be quite cool. I actually would quite like to do these on some single bases and have these manning my castle walls. I quite like this chap here who's what do you actually call it? Winching it? Why can't I think what the sort of hand cranking the crossbow? My mind's just gone a blank. Anyway, he's getting the crossbow ready to fire. So yes, so as you can see now, obviously the amount of files, the amount of things that he's printed has sent to me, you may want to print more, you may want to print less, or if you're getting these from a merchant, obviously they'd have different price plans, but it just gives you a good example of all the different types that you can get. So lots of different varieties of helmets and bodies. So here we have the bases that I've completed. So what I decided to do was essentially create bases with the charge pike at the front, and that's because, as I've already said, the bases of Perry Miniatures have the pikes at the march. So I wanted these to just be able to slot in front. Now, I would have done quite well to actually check how I'd painted these ones, because I've painted the pikes completely different colours. However, on the battlefield, I don't know how noticeable that might be. So as far as I can see, we actually get a fairly consistent look. Obviously the basing's a bit different because I did these a few years ago, and also the size. The Warsteel Miniatures are a few mil larger than, let's pull this unit out, than the Perry miniatures. There is a bit of a difference, but it's negligible in my opinion, not the kind of thing that would bother me at all. I understand some people it may bother them, because I know some people really like just having that consistency. It's not something that particularly bothers me, and again, 3 foot away on a table, who's going to notice or even care? However, I think that that they fit in very well. Now, the Kickstarter, as I said, is meant to be going live in early February. Now, the only pledge level, as I understand, will be 1, and it's going to be €36, and that will give you access to the entire line and all the stretch goals that are going to be available. So you'll get the Pikemen, the Handgunners, and the Crossbowmen for €36, and once you've got those, you'll either be able to print those yourselves at home if you have a resin 3D printer, or you'll be able to basically send those to a merchant and get them printed for you. He is going to be offering merchant licenses as well, so if you are a 3D printing service, you'll be able to get these, and if you're then a customer, you'll just be able to go on to them and say, I want 12 of the Warsteel Crossbowmen, and I'd like them in these poses, or at least that's how I would do it if I was going to somebody. So yeah, I think it's a very interesting line. Now, I painted these up as they are in the Burgundian service, because I'm primarily using Yorkists, and that was their prime ally from the continent, because the French were supporting the Lancastrian cause. So I've gone for a mix of the blue and white Burgundian livery, and then I've just mixed in some random liveries as well in there, and I've just tried to include that Burgundian cross. Now, there isn't actually any evidence that the Burgundian mercenaries that fought over in England during the Wars of the Roses even wore the Burgundian livery. I think it's far more likely that they probably wore that when they're on the continent they're fighting, and when they're over here they're probably just wearing whatever, or the uniform of whatever lord they're particularly serving with. However, it looks good. It looks good on the table. So I based them using the contrast paints, and then just picked out colours for highlighting as normal. Now, as I was mass painting these, it became quite easy. So what I would do is I'd put 3 or 4 on a lollipop stick, and I would do 2 in the Burgundian colours and then 2 in random colours, and that just, I thought, gave me a nice ratio. So sort of 2/3 of them are in the Burgundian livery, and the rest are not. And I just basically, as I picked out colours, I'd apply them to the trousers and just try and basically just create a bit of variety. The flags are from Freezy Water flags, and these are, you've got the main Burgundian flag here, and this is just an infantry flag up here. Obviously, as you can see here, when you're selecting what you put in your unit, you've just got, it may have to go together in a certain way. You may have to make sure that they actually fit together. The standard isn't a separate standard bearer. I just took one of the pikemen who had his pike raised in March, and just put the standard around that. And I selected guys for the front rank who were really sort of seemed to me to be going for it. And at the back here, more guys who are basically at port, and this is one of those ones I was talking about, sort of sneaking his pike around the side. You can see the same thing over here. Sorry, this is a base already put out. This guy here, he's at that sort of an angle where I didn't really want to put him in a front rank, but if I put him in this side at the back here, and I just slide him around, the pike will come around the outside. So I'm really pleased. Now, I understand that these may not be to everybody's taste. However, I don't think it's a bad thing to have more options out there. And one of the benefits of 3D printing and Kickstarter is that we can see people who want to sculpt and want to get the stuff out there being able to do so. As I say, he started doing this because he needed more Swiss stuff on mass advancing with sort of lowered pikes and things like that, and then just carried on and thought that others may be interested, and that's where we are. Plans for the future, he's told me he is planning on doing mounted and unmounted men-at-arms, including other stuff such as certain 15th century lords, potentially from England, so the Wars of the Roses, I guess, and the continental stuff, so people like Charles the Bold. He's also looking at armoured pikemen, so for those of you who want your armoured pikes in your front ranks, other handgunners and crossbowmen, and he takes a lot of inspiration from Tobias Capwell's work. So those of you who know, he's basically the preeminent person on 15th century armour. So as I say, this is going to be coming up in February. What I'll do is I'll leave a couple of photos up at the end of this unit. Unit. I don't want to get shot down. It's not a pike block. It's just a few bases with the Perry bases behind it, so you can see. But overall, I am really pleased with these, and I think I'll be trying to get hold of the STL files anyway, because it's always handy to just be able to have more. And the problem is that this is now giving me ideas of actually doing the French Burgundian War, because my Wars of the Roses project hasn't ended by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just on a little bit of a pause at the moment because I'm going to be starting a Lancastrian units and bits and bobs soon, but it would be fun to do the French Burgundian Wars. So there we are, Warsteel Miniatures, coming soon. Keep an eye on the channel, and I'll update from the community when the Kickstarter goes live. If you've got any questions, pop them down below, and I'll do the best of my ability to answer them. Otherwise, I hope you're all keeping well, and I will see you guys again soon in the next one. See you all later.